relevance how you position yourself as a brand, especially if you're an old brand like we. For us, it was very much about defining points of uniqueness with the Moomins. And we started out by looking at differences within the licensing industry, and quite quickly realized that one of the key differences is that Moomin is a body of art rather than a manufacturer of entertainment industry. Because in all honesty, if you look at the merchandise licensing in the world, 99.9% of it is manufacturers of entertainment industry. It's Warner, Disney, Rovio, Sanrio. They're doing a fantastic job, but they manufacture their products industrially. Whereas Tove was an artist in a very remote country, born in 1914. It's in a way the antithesis of what the rest of the people in the licensing industry are doing. And we wanted to home in on the differences, because defining uniqueness is actually emphasizing differences. So that's how we did it. And I think we're quite in a happy place nowadays. Both Tove and Lars Jansson were very difficult to define sexually. They both had long relations with both female and male friends, and they very much fell in love with people. So gender equality and tolerance is something that we address not on a daily basis, but many times every year. And for the gay community in the world, we know that Tove has become an iconic sort of beacon person, and not confusing or making mistakes there is very important to us. Another thing that we do constantly is try to fight ridiculous consumerism and climate change, because we have a possibility of asking our licensees to do a better job there. And that's something that we have as a program in everything we do. I think this varies. How we perceive ourselves is quite different from how many other brands might see their role. The fact that Moomin is a family-owned brand, and a very small family indeed, there are only 6 people who own all rights, gives us leverage and freedom. So we see our role as having to be very brave. And if we're brave, we've been very fortunate. We've acquired wealth and fame and all sorts of things. And being brave and generous as a consequence, I think is very important. So we try to ground ourselves deeply by giving big donations to charity every year and engaging in value-driven projects rather than just trying to maximize profit. So for us it's very clear and easy because we're a small family. We're not steered by stock owners or stock exchange. It's a personal choice, and it gives freedom and happiness to us too. So it's we're in a very privileged position because we can make our choices ourselves. We had a example of someone questioning us last year for engaging with a retail chain where suspicions were raised that the owner was a racist. And we actually did some investigation and came to the conclusion that he indeed is a racist and has made terrible statements. And then we investigated more and realized that some of our licensees, not directly, but through wholesalers, had sold some products to them, and we contacted them within the limits of legal procedures. Can you do anything to just disconnect this chain of retail shops? And they all completely got the point and did so. And then we contacted the person who had questioned us and said, we're really grateful, thank you for doing this, because we had no idea. I'd never heard of the person before, and they were completely right.
I think in terms of how much brands have the attention of people, they have a tremendous role and tremendous also need to or responsibility to take part in the discussions and actually make changes in how they behave in the society. And I think this is also we can see more and more examples of this, but I think the brands should really understand better their role in the society and then make really like real value-driven actions, not only in terms of marketing communications, what is not necessarily what branding is about, but in changing how the brand actually does things and behaves internally and externally. So not only pep talk in media, but also like more deeper, profound change on what values are driving them forward and in what kind of activities or decisions that kind of choice leads to. But definitely there's a big role for brands, and that comes by definition because of brands play a big role in everyday lives of people. Brand needs to be executed in all levels and all areas of the business. And this is basically, it's not only in what happens in communications or in the marketing department. It also happens what happens inside the company and what kind of decisions are made. Because brand itself, brand summarizes the company's values and the purpose and should direct how the company is operating in all the levels, from the leadership to recruiting to communications to what kind of business are you engaged with. So I think this is very profound.
It's also tragic because if you look at what has happened in trade in general in the world as a consequence of this very deeply rooted outsourcing frenzy that companies have had in cutting costs, they've outsourced their marketing capacity, they've outsourced their storytelling capacity, they've outsourced their sales completely to the big retail chains. And if someone thinks that internet was the savior, it's bollocks, because it's even more concentrated to a few actors like Amazon in the future. So they don't control their core assets. So in a way, they make themselves into sweatshops that are engaged in a race to the bottom. The only thing that they the only competence they're given or asset they're given is to try to squeeze the price lower. So it's also about how you manage your core assets, your storytelling, your values. You have to own them. You have to tell the story. You can't outsource it because you're gone after that. The big retailers don't do it for the love of art. They do it to maximize profit.